Testing, 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 testing. Check, check, check. Testing, check. Testing, testing. Check, check, check. We're good. Oh. Here, Jenny. Here. Can you watch this yellow bar? And I'm gonna go across the room, and let's see if it responds. Testing, testing. Check, check, check. Testing, test. Yes. Okay, good. Because I want to make sure it's feeding off of these and not off the microphone that's on the laptop. Thank you.
Just in case you should get two audio.
It's all right. We will be just fine. Now I can shut these two down.
Val. Hey everybody, good evening. My name is Kevin Linsky, Vice President of Operations with Hero. Hero is a pool solutions biomed company. So we like to say one call, we can handle it all. So we can do everything from beds to gurneys to x-ray to ultrasound to histology equipment. Pretty much everything. We have techs to do it all. We're based right here in Santa Ana, California. We've doubled in size in the last year, and we're continuing on that path, working with a lot of local customers and a lot of folks here. Real quick about me, I've been in the industry about 20 years now. Just did a long group with a company called Lenovo Solutions. A lot of people here from Lenovo. Was there for quite a long time. Great company to work for. Looking for jobs. Just want to mention, schools like this are great. Events like this are great. I love that Justin's here to live stream this to people around the country to see kind of what they're missing. There's a lot of states and areas that don't have associations. So this is awesome to see that. You know, this community is small. You'll get to know that if you
Check, check. Let's do it. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Better Biomed. Today is a little bit different. I am here at CMIA Orange County chapter. This is meeting number 1, and we have a panel of specialists here. California has a very strong CMIA group. That is a biomed group like we have around the country. That's what they call it, CMIA. They call it other things in other states, guys. So anyway, they're a very tight-knit group, and this being the first place, the first meeting, we have a stupendous turnout. And I would show you guys a camera view. Maybe I'll pan later, show you guys how many people showed up. Tremendous turnout. We are here at the Southern California Technical Institute, and joining me are 5 of our specialists. And guys, I would like if you could just, when I move the camera, I'll point to you and just go ahead and give a bio, and we'll work left to right. And you guys just tell a little bit about yourself, and we'll go on into the questions, all right? So today's topic, we're going to be talking about career progression and training and how each of you have a unique perspective on how we accomplish that, right? And it's very true. Everybody does everything completely different. So you guys, I don't get out to California very much. So I do the Better Biomed channel. I've been doing it for 5.5 years. I don't know, let's say 1,200 or so videos, probably 1.3 million views right now. But I do tour around. I have the privilege of speaking at colleges and whatnot, meeting groups like you. I've never been to the CMIA yet, so that's why this is kind of a special event for me. And thanks to Corey for inviting me out for number 1 meeting for Orange County. Guys, this is so awesome. So I've been a biomed for 21 years, military trained, and now I'm Vice President of Phoebe Medical. Phoebe, thank you guys for helping support this mission to get out and spread the message. Thank you very much. So that's all about me. You guys know a lot about me. People around the world are going to be watching this. So anyway, let's go ahead and turn it over to number 1, who's going to be Corey down there. Corey, go ahead. Yes, please. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So I'm Corey Hernandez. I'm a biomedical engineer. I've worked in Texas. I've worked in Northern California. I've worked in Denver. And I've been Southern California multiple times. But I am relatively new now. 3 years ago, I was in Texas, and when I came out here with my wife. She's a professor at Cal State Fullerton, and I work for a biomed company out of Dallas, and I could pretty much live wherever I want with that job. And I got a little bit bored. I started going to different places, different schools, and then I found this school that needed a teacher, so that's why I'm here. I am the teacher and the professor, and I also run the biomed program here at Southern California Institute of Technology. And so I'm getting to see biomed education up front and close and personal, and I'm really trying to tie it in with the academics that I know exist and the industry knowledge that we have. It's a learning experience for me, but I get to bring in a lot of my own experience. So I appreciate, Justin, thank you very much for coming out here. Everardo, thank you for hosting the event here. I'm happy that we're able to do this.
Excellent. Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
Alrighty. Thank you, Corey. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joseph Trujillo. I entered the field back in 1992. So I've had a fair amount of experience as a field service engineer, in-house programs, as well as currently at Hogue Memorial with Renovo Solutions. So wide range of, again, experience. I have mentored, coached, led several biomeds such as you that are in the room. Starting out as what I like to say is a BMET 0. There's nothing negative about that, but we want a starting point. We want to start at a BMET 0, and then we work our way up from 1, 2, and 3 into specialties, things like that. So again, Joseph Trujillo here tonight.
Thank you, Joseph. First of all, if I may say as well, thank you to the Orange County chapter. CMIA is another passion of mine. I've been in the field for 28 years, and once I got involved with CMIA about 12 years ago, it's just been a wonderful experience to be able to give back to the industry that actually has given myself and my family so much. You'll see, as you saw earlier in the other hall, that most of us know each other. We go around from one show to the next, meeting to the next. Not only do we work together, we do business together, but we support each other. So many of us can actually call each other friends.
So on top of that, my youngest, a few years back, and I wanted to make sure I give you that story. He was working on his remote control cars and gas powered, and he started looking up YouTube's, right? And so I was like, man, what is that? And then he graduated into his own car. And then before you know it, as he started getting into the job field, he would start helping me with fixes around the house. And then here I am, learning from other new biomeds. And guess what? They're looking at Justin's videos. And I was like, wow, we've really progressed. Because the industry that is literally a background worker, most of us are in the basement. We don't even have a window. And we work next to the morgue most of the time.
Yep.
Nobody knows what we do. And the last article that came out from the federal government that said one of the top 10 jobs that is unknown to most people, medical equipment repairers. I've made a living out of it. I started with an electronics technology certificate. I didn't even get a degree at first. And I started working for a manufacturer, a dialysis manufacturer. Forward 10 years, I make another move and I go into the actual provider field. And now it came back to the field service role. Came back to Kaiser, did a job at Kaiser, and they were so impressed that they were saying, we need to bring you in. Ever since then, once I stepped into the in-house role, now that's progressed into me getting into even management. Some of close friends that have encouraged me to continue that education, because this is what they do. And I want to continue doing that. I want to make things better for you guys as you come into the field. I don't want to be just giving you what to do. I want to be able to make those directive positions so that I can control the culture of what you do. So I'm now working on even my master's degree so I can be like the person right next to me.
Making me blush here. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesse Lopez, and I've been in biomed for about 38 years. I'm currently the director of biomed at USC. Keck Medicine USC is actually the name of the hospital. I started out as a field service, just like everybody else, working on ventilation. I would like to say if it was able to breathe, I could fix it. I did that for a long, long time, guys. And I've met a lot of people in this room doing that and made a lot of relationships. Went back to school, got a degree in healthcare administration, and I broke into the management field because I thought that was the next thing to do, go into management. But I do miss turning a screwdriver. I do miss being a technician. It's one of my passions to be able to provide what's needed for the patient. Guys, we're here for patients. We're here to help the patient get better, right? A lot of people say nursing is our customer. No, the patient is our customer. We're here to provide a service for that nurse to use to treat that patient. We have to learn that, guys. We have to learn that we're not fixing stereos. We're not fixing, microwaves. We're going to be fixing a piece of equipment that's going to diagnose, treat, monitor a person. It could be your mom, it could be your brother, it could be your cousin. So this field is very important. It's not just a field that you go, oh, I need a job, let me go try biomed. It's a passion. You'll learn it, and you'll get there. But it becomes a passion. You're able to see your piece of equipment actually on a person, helping them live, survive, get better. It's something surreal, and when you get enough experience, they call you into OR, right in the middle of a case. Wow. I saw my first open heart when I walked into that. And I was, okay, wait, let me go fix this monitor. Yeah. But, stuff like that, who knew? Who knew I was going to be able to do that? Going to go get a degree in electronics, be able to walk into an OR in the middle of a heart case. And I was able to get that person safe because I was able to fix that monitor and get that doctor reliable. So yeah, guys, it's a passion. It's more than a job to me, and I hope you take it like that too. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Jesse. Well said. Well, my name is David Stiles. I started my biomed career in 1980.
That's
And
when
at
I was
that
born.
time,
Yeah, you put it all the way.
at that time when I had the opportunity, I was at the VA Long Beach. Before that, I was building a DC-9 aircraft. So I want to show you the transition from careers. One day you're riveting an aircraft, and the next day you're starting your career in biomedical engineering. I didn't know what biomed engineering meant when I first got the job. I thought I was going to be shoveling bio waste. I had no idea what to. Well, what they did, they stuck me in the back room. I started as a temporary at the VA Long Beach, VA healthcare system. And I started lapping veins on an old Gomco pump, if you remember the rotary vane pumps. That was my very first piece of medical equipment I've ever worked on. And so I took upon the opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to start that permanently. And the VA had a great system at the time, was that they trained me in this field. They trained me in all of the electronic courses. They sent me to Little Rock, Arkansas to perform, learn clinical engineering, learn about clinical lab equipment. I was working on old Beckman Astra systems. All of this equipment they provided for me. And I took this in like a sponge. I don't know what caused this. I was a biology major in college. I took this information, I couldn't stop learning. And I took every opportunity to understand the service manuals, to read all of this. And I finally developed my career, ended up going through the VA, ended up working at Long Beach Memorial for Memorial Care, and I worked for technicians. And in 2000, I had the opportunity to supervise and manage the shop in 2000. And I've been there ever since until I recently retired. I've been retired for 2 years now. I'm doing a little bit of consulting. I'm still involved with the field. But what most importantly, I've also worked here with SCIT. I was on the advisory board years ago, and I've done a little work with Cal State Long Beach at their biomedical program. And I was also involved with AAMI. I was a board member on the BINT magazine. I got a couple old articles under the belt, you know, wipe the dust off those issues. But I've done this in such a way that every day in this field, I went to work and I enjoyed it. And I think over the years, the staff that I've hired, I thought I've developed some of the staff, and they've learned and grown with me to be some of the finest technicians I ever met in my life. And a lot of them moved out from my hospital and moved into the Southern California area. So I'm here to kind of wax poetic on what my
Nice.
career's been like and offer any kind of suggestions. And for tonight, I'm taking resumes from you folks, and I'm going to do for nickel. That's Lucy, what Lucy charges, and I'll review and provide some improvement opportunities for those. But I'm just here to listen to all the new students coming out of SCIT, an outstanding program here, as you can all tell by just touring this facility. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to come in and just sharing some of my time with you.
That's perfect. Go ahead and hold on to that, Dave.
You got it.
Thanks, man.
Well, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead, and I've got a series of questions that I want to ask our panel. And so since our topic is going to be career advancement and training, our first question is going to be, there's a supply and demand issue in our career field, and that has led to a wide variety of technicians in the field. That has been fantastic, and it's been kind of hair-pulling in some ways. So my question to you guys is, what do you believe the minimum requirement should be for somebody that wants to get into this career field? So go ahead and start it out.
Well, as you know, there are probably well over 1,000 different types of medical devices. You can't know them all. A lot of hospitals, though, and they have limited budgets. They need this equipment. They need it fast. My minimum requirements for most of my technicians was at least a associate's degree in electronics. We really required some time in a clinical environment. I've noticed, like a lot of the new graduating students here, a lot of them didn't take any advantages of internships and any opportunities where you can get some time in a hospital or with an organization that can get you exposed to this medical technology. Once you do that and you get into your groove, then that's how you start. You're going to start on the bench. You're going to start doing redundant PMs, redundant work, but you're going to learn that equipment and you're going to know it.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Jesse.
Hey guys, at USC we require an AS.
Okay.
When I worked at UCI, we required a bachelor's. So it all depends on, I guess, the hospital you're working at. You know, minimum for me, it's an AS for USC. I had a lot of. I suggest that you volunteer, go through a volunteer. If you can't find an internship program, volunteering through a hospital, and then specifically ask to volunteer in the biomed department, and then talk to that biomed and tell them, hey, is it okay if I volunteer here and work here in biomed? And 99% of the time they will say, yeah, come on in. You know, that's how I will break into the field. For me, it was being a PM weenie working on air compressors. That's how I
Okay.
broke into this field, working on air
That's a good
compressors.
step.
Yeah, and blenders. I could do a mean blender back in the day.
The design hasn't
The
changed.
design hasn't changed at all. That 3800 is the same. Yeah. So yeah, guys, you know it's very difficult. You know, breaking into the field. It is. I'm not gonna lie because they're gonna ask for some type of background. They're gonna ask for some type of knowledge. You know, I was telling a lot of the students here that I personally, when I see somebody coming out of school, I'm gonna ask you about your education. I'm gonna ask you about what you learned. You know, because I got nothing else to ask you. You know, I'm gonna ask you, you know, what hospital did you work at? So, you know, brush up on your terminology. You know, don't be scared to go out there and volunteer. Yeah, you're not gonna get paid, but you're out there learning.
That's right.
So that's the important thing. You're out there gaining that knowledge needed, and you pay your dues there. They might like you and offer you a job. You never know, guys. So just get out there and do what you need to do.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Same question.
Yes, please. Please, absolutely.
So the biggest advice that I could give all of you students is learn your anatomy, learn your physiology. The body hasn't changed in thousands of years. The equipment changes every other year because one manufacturer gets up on another one and says, I've got HD. Well, now I've got 4K. Well, I've got 5K. It doesn't matter. As long as you know what that piece of equipment does for the body, who cares whose label is on that piece of equipment? Doesn't matter if it has a touchscreen or if it's a full analog knobs and not even LEDs where we used to replace bulbs. When I started as a field service, I used to carry tubes of chips and sockets and all kinds of. I could do an actual electrical repair way back when. By the time forward 15 years later, my trunk was full of boards. No longer was I doing any troubleshooting component level. It's only going to continue getting worse. And what I say is you'll have to evolve and learn the technology side into the computers because everything is processor controlled these days. So if you don't know that, then you're certainly not setting yourself up for the future. So again, basics, start out with your anatomy and physiology. That is the key. If you understand what the body does and what that equipment does for the body, the rest will be a cake, a walk in the park. The bare minimum for us is very similar, as we
Okay.
stated. So associates, a bare minimum, we require, depending on what county you apply for, 2 years or 4 years experience. So I would say that that degree is not the top priority for us. However, the experience counts more. So even if you come in with an electronics technology certificate, um, work your way through a manufacturer or a third party. As a matter of fact, many of you heard me say that several times today. Gain that experience. Once you come back with that and the specialty, all of a sudden you become a prime candidate for us.
So I want to clarify something. Since you put some emphasis on anatomy physiology, what about somebody with a clinical background? Because we as biomeds get this a lot. Somebody, let's say somebody is an anesthesia tech and they say, hey, that's a cool job, I want to do that. They've already got their degree. What do you think? A valid candidate?
Valid candidate if they give the right answers of what do you fix at home.
Okay. Good one. All right.
All right. You know, our minimum requirement basically has been the degree or the diploma program here at SEIT. I do come from the time when a minimum of a 2-year degree was required. Now, one thing I was talking to a lot of the graduates and pre-graduates here was, you know, I got into the field back in '92, as mentioned, as a parts guy. I got my, you know, I was working on my degree at that time. I seen an opportunity to get on as a parts person within 6 months. We also, we had, yeah, sorry. So we, in 6 months, I made it up to a technician level. I went through biomed 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then before you knew it, within 6 to 7 years, I was managing our depot, what we called a depot out in Colorado. So we had several devices coming in. After a while, we had another school up in South Dakota that a lot of students, just like you, were coming down, and I had really good succession rate. So coaching, mentoring, as mentioned before. They were coming out, and we consider them biomed zeros. That's not a bad thing. So again, as I mentioned, we start working on you. We always consider infusion pumps, like they had mentioned, Jose and Jesse, electrical safety testing. When I'm doing an interview, I'm going to ask some of the basic stuff. Electrical testing is the bread and butter of biomed. That's how it all started back in the early days when you think about Ralph Nader and electrical safety and electrocution in the hospital. So that's the basics. I'm going to expect you to know what those values are. Practice interviewing. I may have talked to a couple of you, and I bring in several students. They may not be, have the qualifications, but I like to give them that experience of interviewing, and then I critique them afterwards. And I, recently had an interview where they could not explain electrical safety. Once you get done with your program here, go back and start over. You see this wealth of knowledge here, these books here. I'm in paradise with this library. You've got all the sciences that are involved in biomed. Just like Jesse mentioned, the first time I ever had to go into an OR, it was Children's Hospital Denver. There's a baby. I can't even see the baby because there were so many surgeons around him. I can see him on the monitor and what they were doing, but then I'm crawling around, all these shoes on the bottom trying to fix a cable. But again, volunteering, internships, that's all I can say. When you do get in there, you do anything you can. You can fix IV poles, fix wheelchairs. When they see your work ethic, that's what we're looking for.
Agreed.
And I can't say more than that. And again, continuing your education, you get a diploma, move on to the BS, things like that. And a lot of things that I coach on, it doesn't end at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock when your shift ends. Go home, read service manuals, take service manuals now.
100%.
You can Google anything nowadays, read up on stuff. Again, like I mentioned, infusion pumps, the gateway drug to biomed.
It's true.
Yep. So,
Excellent. Solid answer, Joe.
thank you.
I'll take this. Thanks, Joe. Thank you very much. So I also have a similar background, starting out working for a third party, didn't have my degree yet, ended up getting my bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering, but I was already established as a biomed by the time I got that degree. Of course, there's also the certifications that you can get that maybe in some cases are in lieu of a degree. I think for most of us, we all know biomeds that started out with a degree or without a degree, and it's one of my pet peeves, I guess, and maybe pet peeves is the wrong word to use, but it's one of my sticking points where a BMET 1 on the left side of the country and the BMET 1 on the right side of the country may have an entirely different background. So
Yep.
what does the title mean at that point? So I do think that an associate's degree or even a diploma is still better to have in your toolbox, in your resume, because at least then you can point to curriculum, you can point to training, you can point to education. Jose, I spend a lot of time on anatomy and physiology in my classes. Most of my students can probably complain about that, where I make them learn a lot of that, and I agree with you. In fact, one of my other things that I like to say is that biomed departments shouldn't be reporting to facilities anymore. They should be reporting to nursing. Yeah. I think our CNOs need to be the ones that are asking us our productivity, but that's another soapbox. So I do tell my students that whether you have an associate's degree, whether you have a diploma, you have the first 5 years of your career, it needs to be maximum exposure. You need to expose yourself to as many different types of pieces of equipment that you can, as many different departments as you can, if possible, as many different hospitals as you can. So, especially with a diploma, a third party is going to have a lot more flexibility in who they can hire. So let's say you only have the diploma, then you go work for a third party. You do that for a couple of years, and now you're ready to go work somewhere like KP. Talk louder.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I thought I could put it over here. Okay, sorry, I talk
Well,
really
you
soft.
have audience members way over here as
Oh,
well.
gotcha. So basically, spend your time exposing yourself to as much equipment as possible, as many departments as you can. When you finally do work at a hospital, don't just stay in the shop. Do rounds, get to know people. Those are the people who are going to help you keep your job when it's time to cut jobs. That's one of the lessons I tell my students as well. If you're a known name, if everyone knows your name on every department, then they don't want to get rid of you when it comes time to cut costs. Because it's the other lesson I give them. Go ahead.
All right. Since you've got the microphone, let's go ahead and let's ask you the next question. All right.
Yep.
So in the military, there's a journeyman system. It's a very structured training plan, and you are trained to task. And once you've proven you can accomplish a task, now it's going to be your responsibility to do that task. In the civilian sector, we don't have anything even close to that. So my question to you is, how have you structured your training plan, and what method do you think is best for organizing the training for your shop? So go ahead.
Well, I don't have a shop anymore, but when I did have a shop, we did have competencies, and it was an annual exercise. When you're looking at employee reviews and performance reviews, that you would update their competencies, and that could be based on training that they received, whether it's OEM or third-party training. It could also be based on goals that I gave them at the beginning of the year. Let's say that, I have Jake that wants to work in respiratory, so I'm going to give him some shadow time with our ventilator guy or something like that. And that's going to be the goal that he has throughout the year. And then when I do the competencies, I can kind of measure, how do you feel? What's the comfort level that you have with this equipment?
Excellent.
That's ideal, but, competencies, I think, is where it comes down to.
At least for a baseline.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey. So at Renovo Solutions, we also have a technical competency program, which entails not only technical items, but also, one of the most important items is documentation. So, it also measures documentation. We're able to discuss on an annual review or 6-month review, 90 review. Documentation, I feel like biomed has become 70% documentation, 30% fix. I mean, with CMMS, I better not get in trouble for this, DNV, Joint Commission coming in and expecting OEM, PM procedures. Back in the old days, it was pass with exception. We could just, pass it and move on. We didn't have to document all of the readings that we took. Now that's different. So not only being a great technician for all you, graduates and soon to be graduates, documentation. Our technical competency looks at our CMMS. How well are they? If we're missing some items, then we provide training. We have a great training provided with Renovo as well. If we're missing something, then training, and then we go from there. But other items on there, customer service. Customer service is one of the biggest things. Communication. When you go up to that floor and you bring something down to the shop, the most important thing is not only fixing that device, is fixing the customer. Communicating back. Because then, like Corey said, they'll know your name, but it won't be good. Joe always comes up, grabs that device, but we never know where it goes. It goes into biomed and disappears. So, again, having those technical competencies, we also expect when they go to technical training, whether it's OEM or a vendor, they come back and they do a class.
Nice.
In my shop. So, teach the teacher, bring them back. They are required to sit down and put the class together, looking at our BMAT 3s, our higher levels. I'm requiring them to start it this year to start creating classes. That's some of their goals on their annual review. I expect them to start providing training. And then we also measure them on an annual basis.
That's awesome. All right.
So I will give you a little bit of disappointment on my behalf because we are a full union environment. And unfortunately, we're very restricted in what we can do. We actually do have an apprenticeship program. But in the last 12 years that I've been at this employer, we've had one person make it through the program. And the issue is that the school is in LA. So, and that person worked in Downey. So for them to make that travel to school and complete that program was a chore and a half. I commend her for what she did. She's now a certified biomed, full-fledged with us, making the same amount as anybody else. But it took her
Good
a
on
long
her.
time to get that done. So it could be done, internally once you get in. So you heard us say that inside. It doesn't matter. If you want to come to Kaiser, I don't care. Come deliver food. Go transport the patients. Go be a transporter. Whatever it is, EVS. Work your way in, because once you're in that union, now all of a sudden you're ahead 2 steps from somebody from the outside. Now you can take advantage of that internship apprenticeship program. But we're trying to expand that. We actually did have a talk with all the leaders for Maricasa, our union leaders, and our technical leaders, and we said, how can we bridge that gap? Because we need to be able to have a school for us down in the San Diego area or in the northern area of Southern California so that we can take advantage of that same apprenticeship program. So we need the schools to have that associate's degree so that we can continue and grow that apprenticeship program.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I, as a leader in my department, look at training, I look at two different things. First, I got a service contract costing me $1 million. I need to train somebody to save some money. Okay? That used to be my old way of thinking, right? Save money, save money, save money. Now it's all about workflow. Get the patient in, get the patient out, right? The equipment's working, that case is going to get done, the doctor's going to be happy, everybody's going to be good. How do I achieve that? Training my staff. And not only one, but more than one. Anesthesia is a great example in my hospital. We have 43 ORs with about 8 extra anesthesia machines.
Nice.
So that's a total of about 52 anesthesia machines, right around there. We have a full service contract with GE. The response time is pretty good, but not good enough, right? When that machine goes down, I need a technician in it that's trained, capable, and willing to do that, right? Training in my facility is, well, it's a union shop too, so I have to go by seniority. It goes by seniority, the training.
Really?
So it's difficult for the lower technicians to get the high level training, like the anesthesia, the balloon pumps, the good stuff, the good stuff, the ones that you want to work on, But that's the way it goes.
Right.
I'm an old school manager. I believe you have to pay your dues before you get that. Unfortunate, but that's how I look at training. You get in, you pay your dues, you work hard, and you'll get that killer training. You'll get your IV pump training, and you'll get your monitor training, but that's your bread and butter, right? Everybody gets that. But for me, you have to prove that you're capable to achieve that training and to, do what it needs to do when you get back, and come back with your certification, because if you don't, then, we have another problem. A lot of people like to go to training and forget why they're there, but
Of course.
they take it as a vacation, or they're like, oh, let's go party and forget about class the next day. But
It happens.
it happens. It happens. Believe me. But that's how I look at training, guys. I look at it as being a union shop, but I look at it as a workflow thing.
Right.
My job is to get that equipment back into the hands of that nurse or doctor to treat our patients. At the end of the day, it's all about the patients for me.
Interesting.
I would agree with almost everything stated here. I worked for a director, and I work for it's a nonprofit hospital, but sometimes there were a lot of budgetary constraints. When you get new technicians and you have experienced technicians, when it comes time to start allocating training, these training dollars had to come from purchases, or they had to come from some other form. You had to be very creative on who you send to training. But I do know one of the elements of this training that really benefits everyone is that you reduce response time. When you can go to a call and you're done with that call in 1 hour, instead of waiting 24 hours for the vendor to show up, this is one of the fields that help reduces overall budget costs. How do you train all of your technicians in your department? Because I've got my ear bent a few times. David, where's my training? Uh, you have to wait. I need to train I train my experienced staff on their critical equipment, but my new staff needs training as well. One thing that I've always done in my department, I try to teach everybody and train everybody to work on everything at once. I don't
Solid.
specialize.
Okay.
I don't have anyone stuck on pumps for 10 years. I move them around. And I
Nice.
give them all that opportunity.
Excellent.
So the department grows in one steady pace, but when it comes to allocating training dollars, believe it or not, that's a difficult field to broach.
Yeah.
But you have to do it wisely and prudently.
Excellent. Okay, so this one, gonna maybe change it a little bit. So certification it's an easy solution that most people support. You know, it's pretty general. Like we want to be able to standardize and certify our techs. However, there's been a lot of barriers to its widespread implementation. And a lot of people have their reasons. You know, some places require it. California, I think, it is heavily influenced. Other states, they just want people, right? So how would you guys suggest the industry press forward with implementing a wider spread user base when it comes to standardizing certification? So,
I love that question.
please.
And I'm most glad to be the first one to answer.
Yeah, please, do it. Let's do it.
Well, I'm going to use another field as a great example. Just a standard industrial electrician or residential electrician. Every electrician that I've ever met that was good went through some kind of apprenticeship program where they had to spend certain years learning the field. You heard earlier that most of us, our first basic requirement is an AS degree. It doesn't end there. Once you get employed by your facility, your continuing education credits start. There is no standardized approach in the biomed field right now in which you can get a template and have everybody learn at the same pace and use some kind of standardized learning template so we all can learn at the same rate, learn governance, learn anatomy and physiology. These need to be really broken in and studied and logged and documented. I think we need a formalized industry standard to set up some kind of program, perhaps a journeyman, like in the service, or some kind of apprenticeship program. I think that would be a great start, and it needs something that we have to do this nationwide so we have a national standard, or even a state standard if we want to, especially in California where we have the population to support that.
So I want to give you guys another little piece of information. So this comes from Binseng Wang, which probably every single one of you guys know this, all right? Fascinating man to talk to if you guys have the opportunity. He talked about Japan and how they had also a problem with finding biomed technicians until they created a license. It gives you a goal to reach for, right? And now they have a career field full of qualified and certified biomeds. So just another thing to think about. But thanks for your answer, Dave. That was great. Jesse, please. How do you think we should move forward with certification to roll it out?
I hesitate on that question.
Okay.
And I tell you right. I know very good technicians that are certified, and I know very bad technicians that are certified.
Oh, I'm not certified, by the way.
But that's
All
what
right.
I'm saying.
Guys, sorry.
I personally would not disqualify somebody if they're not certified. I'm not a person to,
Okay.
if you don't have a CBIT, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not that person. I think that it's very important if that's what you want to do, but I'm not a big fan of certification
Okay.
because I don't think it makes or breaks you. You know, I'm a big education person. I believe if you have a degree, that's a great start and all the training you need. But for me to say that you need to be a CBIT required to get hired, that won't be coming from me. So I'm not very...
Interesting, because you already said earlier that you question people when they interview with you, that you question their technical capabilities,
Right.
which a lot of managers don't.
Right.
They really fail to hit that, like question somebody's real capabilities. So that your answer actually makes a lot of sense.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
So how do we move that forward? We definitely need to figure out what the best implementation of the standardization should be. In my organization, uh, it's a huge plus. So I showed you guys our pay scale, and you saw the BMET pay scale, the certified CBET pay scale. There is no steps. So if you get your certification at any point during your first 4 to 5 years, you automatically get bumped up to the top level pay. So it's a huge incentive for people to come and get it. Amy has done a really great step to help by bringing in the CABT,
I agree.
which was a monumental step forward that allows you to at least take that test and figure it out so that you could then gain that experience and eventually make it into a certified position. When I came in, that was what my mentor told me. He said, get involved with CMIA and start working on studying for the CBET exam. I'll give you 5 years and I want you to have it.
Okay.
And he purposely, as everybody here on the panel stated, I got sent everywhere, places I didn't want to be, but that was his point. I want to expose you to everything so that by the time you take that exam, you already are very well versed with
That's
everything
awesome.
else. So for me, it definitely helped, and it gave me that incentive that I want to get into management. So guess what? During COVID, that's what I did. Prepped up my studying, went into the SPD area that I didn't know, imaging, studied that, and got my CHTM. So even before that's even required, I'm already a certified healthcare technology manager. So now I'm looking for the director spot. My my current mentor, he said, you need to go and get your fellowship at a couple of these other higher organizations as well. So again, there's multi levels of where you want to be, and that certification should come along with it. Does it have to be right away at first? No, but definitely work your way into it.
Excellent.
All right, certification. Back in 2004, I was 13 years into my career and I said, I want to get certified. So it took me 13 years to actually get serious about it. Prior to that, about 7, 8 years into it, several senior technicians told me, don't even study, take it. You know, you'll pass, no problems. So in 2004 was the creation of CABMET. I worked very closely with Dave Scott when I was in Denver, Colorado. There were 6 of us at that time, and we all wanted to take our certification test. So we all got together. Each one of us got a subject. I was troubleshooting. I forget what Dave Scott was, but this was this was when CABMET or CABMET study group was born back in 2004. We all took it. We all passed. So then there going forward, we all had our notebooks. This is before computers, I think. So we had our binders. We had all our material in it. And then we had the rest of the biomed community say, hey, can you guys do that again? We really didn't think of it as a study group. And they all got, and we said, sure, we'll do it, you know, when they seen the passing rate. And then our passing rate just skyrocketed. Again, certification. It's when you get certified, that's when your career, when you know it's going to be your career. Biomed is your career. Like Jesse mentioned earlier, you got to have passion. Again, I'm kind of like that. I really don't look at certification as a requirement. I did let it lapse. Not proud of it, but I am, you know, because I learned from it. It did hold my hands, you know, with Kaiser and certain other companies that required certification. So I did let it lapse. Every 3 years, you're supposed to submit your CEUs. And then back in 2017, I said, I got to take that. I kicked myself in the butt. And that was the worst thing, having to take it again and thinking I'm going to fail it after I passed it. But I studied hard. That's something you do on your own. Aside from, you can get some help from study groups. Now Amy runs it. But again, I took it in 2017, and after that, in 2018, I said, I'm going to get my CHTM just because, you know, I'm challenging myself. So challenge yourself, go out there and get it. It's not really required, but again, it's when you decide this is your career.
Excellent.
Thank you. So I'm also a proponent of certification. I wish that we had more options for certification or maybe licensure, like you were saying, Justin. I think licensure would be the next big step for this field. I feel like especially when we start to talk about rights to repair.
Yep.
One of the biggest reasons why we can't work on something is because we're not qualified to work on this thing. And I think licensure can get us to the point of being qualified as long as the licensure can be modality specific, right? If we're a respiratory technician or an anesthesia technician or an diagnostic imaging technician, if we can have licensure that's wrapped around that, then the manufacturers can't say that we're not qualified. Because one of the things that I'm noticing is that we have manufacturers hiring students that are coming right out of school or even right out of high school in some cases. They get their 2 weeks, 3 weeks of training, and now they're qualified, while the guy that's been doing it for 10 years in that modality is not qualified because they didn't go to that 2 week training. I'd rather have the person that has 10 years of DI experience or anesthesia experience working on my equipment than the person that just got out of training who's also just out of school. So I do think that if the licensure was required, that would mean that the manufacturers also need to hire licensed people. And so now we're on an equal playing field.
And that is going to segue into our final question before we open it up for Q&A. So I'm going to have to read this one because I really don't want to mess this up. Right to repair is a hot debate these past few years. In your opinion, will standard biomed requirements and ISO certifications play a larger role in the future of medical equipment maintenance if right to repair moves forward? In other words, ISO certification, you have to vet your technicians, you have to prove that there's a standard level of care that you have. So do you think like certifications and let's say ISO 13485, something like that, will actually help us propel forward? You already kind of alluded to it, so please.
Yep. I have a lot of familiarity with ISO 1345 and 9001. I do think that if we were able to kind of mirror those requirements to our technicians, that would be helpful. Because you do, like you're saying, you have to vet, for 1345, you have to vet your vendors, you have to vet your processes, you have to have quality control. Any kind of discrepancy, you have to have paperwork that follows, like what failed, what are we going to do to improve it. So yeah, I think if you could find a way to implement that to your own technicians to say, okay, again, talking about competencies, it would be more hard-lined, it'd be more focused on the competencies and how do we measure those competencies, the metrics around that, and how do they maintain those competencies, things like that. I think we can go a long way with that, but that's a huge conversation.
Could do a whole video on that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
My take on right to repair is, I come from the component level troubleshooting like several of us do. I've seen good and bad techs. I've seen them destroy boards. It was dangerous. Again, patient safety is our primary focus as a biomed. I feel like you should have some level of knowledge, whether you attended the technical training for that vendor, OEM. So there is I don't think they should hold our hands or tie our hands on repair, but I feel like there should be some level of competency, again, whether you attended the OEM's training. I've seen, again, certified biomeds that destroyed things, and it's scary. So I think there should be some level for more discussion.
I agree. Okay.
Right to repair. I've owned so many different vehicles that sometimes same thing, right? It gets to a certain point, you're like, I can't figure out that code. It's got to go in. And one of the last fancier ones that I bought a few years back, same thing. Would take it to my typical Goodyear shop, and guys I trust, and they're like, I'm sorry, this one's just there's too much liability in the gas tank. You have to take it to the factory.
Wow.
I was like, really? Come on. If I could do it in my garage, I would. But at that point, I thought to myself, yeah, you know what? They're right. If something goes wrong, it's going to be my family in that car. And if something goes wrong, guess what? I'm going to go after that manufacturer. So it goes that same liability scare tactic that a lot of the OEMs use plays into the hospital the same exact way. I believe, and I cannot stress this enough, I cannot believe that we are not already in that liability mode. I believe we're going to get to one day where you're going to have to be certified to clean the floors, to cook that food. because if something goes wrong, who are they going to go after? That institution. And if that institution can prove that that person was licensed or certified, guess what? Then that liability just went down.
That's right.
But if they don't, if they didn't clean that floor right and somebody picked up another disease off that floor, off that bed, off a glass that they used, then they're liable for it. So I can't believe we're not already there. On the flip side, many of us already run type programs. A lot of policies, a lot of procedure. So it would really just take a little bit of effort to get that into the ISO standards. It just takes a lot more effort on the administration side to get there. But it is a good goal, definitely. I just can't believe that we're not already there.
Understood.
I think sometimes the vendors, the OEMs hold us up with the gun, right? You get a vendor coming out that's like, it's going to be $13,000 to fix this,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, why? I could fix it myself. Well, you're not trained. Well, I'm a 25-year experienced biomed. I got an electronics degree. I could read a manual. I can understand schematics. Why can't I fix it? Oh, because we need to train you. I probably know more than your instructor.
Or they won't sell you the part.
Or they won't sell you
Yeah.
the part, right? Even though you troubleshoot it and you figured everything out, they won't sell you the part. So I believe it's like a scare tactic. You know, I believe the OEMs don't want to lose money. You know, they don't want to give up their trade secrets, their code, you know, to get into the error log, right? They want you to pay $15K to get that error log code. So I think it's our right to fix stuff. If we owned it, we should be able to fix it. You know, it's very hard for companies. I work for a major university, have to go to battle with these OEMs sometimes to get codes. And I could imagine a third party trying to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I eventually get it because I could leverage. A third party doesn't have that type of leverage. So they're way back there. They're way in the back of the line, you know, and I'm having to go uphill to get that. So I think it's our right to repair our stuff. We own it, and we need to do it. We do. So I think it's a scare tactic by the OEM, and they hold us up with a gun.
You brought up a good point, Justin, about ISO 9000, 9001. One thing I've noticed is that I'm going to give a hats off, tip of the hat to our ISOs, because most of those organizations are utilizing an ISO style program. A lot of healthcare facilities don't have that in place.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the healthcare facilities here, I think that should be the basic foundation for any service department, is to adhere to some kind of quality assurance program that's recognized and that you can show that you meet these requirements. And part of the ISO requirements, as you all know, is does my staff have adequate training? Are they getting the materials that they need? A lot of healthcare facilities don't want to go through the expense, or they may be controlled or monitored by group purchasing organizations, which control a lot of that throughput. We have a company here that's ISO. You're not. Try this vendor. That's what we're up against. We need to really go with a standardized approach and probably implement at a healthcare facility an ISO program. Now, I don't know if Kaiser has that or any of the other larger healthcare groups, but my previous one did not. And siloed. But so we have no standardization.
I think it's tough to be standard
Yes.
because there's so much out there.
I would absolutely agree.
And the right to repair means we have the right to repair, but I also like to add to that, repair it right. That's the most important.
Oh, that's very important. Yeah, that's why we're here.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you very much. We are actually at the end of our time. Everyone, thank you for watching. Before you leave, I want to pick the camera up. It's going to be a little bit of shaky cam. You have to excuse that. I'm going to actually showcase the quantity of people that showed up for this #1 meeting. Honestly, I didn't know if you guys were expecting quite the turnout you were, but this is amazing. Fantastic. We can't wait for the next one. I will be showcasing that one too, hopefully in the future. So well, I would like to live stream these kind of things more often. And the panelists, you guys, that is some of the best answers I think I've ever heard. So guys, you guys did a fantastic job. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this camera up and show the room. So excuse that. Wow. All right. So you can see over here, everybody, we have a full room, an absolute full room, everyone. You guys have been fantastic, and the room has been quiet. There's actually some people over and around the corner and stuff too. So sorry about the shaky cam again, guys. Everyone here has been absolutely polite. Everybody's been networking. It's been fantastic. So if you are in the region or if you're in California whatsoever, consult your local CMIA. They meet up every couple months, and you can partake. It's a fantastic place to network, to meet people, to find jobs, and to meet subject matter experts. So thank you guys all for watching, and stay tuned. I will leave CMIA links in the video description below. Thanks to all our panelists again. You guys did a fantastic job. And CMIA, Orange County, congratulations. You guys had a fantastic meeting.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks for watching.